Hello, my name is Jacob Bloom. This is a persuasive piece on why you should accept my yearbook quote. The quote that I would like to submit is jmbloom.com, quote, Jun Seba. As it is now, my website is a poorly made fan website for an artist. There's no offensive material on it, and as I will state further into the argument, it does follow all of the guidelines set in place, but I'll get more into specifics later. I'm sure you have a lot of questions about what the website is about, why exactly you should approve it, as I'm expecting you have a lot of concerns as to why you should put it in the year. I want to use this website URL to make a augmented reality game, or an ARG. Now, an ARG is defined as an interactive networked narrative that uses the real world as a platform and employs transmedia storytelling to deliver a story that may be altered by players' ideas or actions. In my ARG, the players are the students or any person who happens to look at the yearbook and want to delve deeper into the website, and they will find a surface-level fan page for the artist Hiroshi Nagai. Now, if they look deeper, they might potentially find a story or a puzzle hidden inside. Now, I'm thinking of incorporating things such as Morse code into video or audio that is recorded in stereo mode, so that they can hear the dots and dashes in different ears, or incorporate invisible buttons on the website that I can tell you about in a video or something like that, or hide images within others using steganography, and there are several other examples as hidden puzzles online. Now, this is the true purpose of the yearbook quote, right? For mine at least, is to serve as the beginning point for the story that I want to tell, that weaves between reality and the story, using a sort of non-invasive and almost sort of visible seeing connection, right? You wouldn't find this whole story, or you wouldn't think to find this whole story hidden inside of a yearbook quote. That's the whole point of it. So here are the rules, as you can see. We have word count, no more than 150 characters. Needs to include attribution. No profanity, slang, obscene, offensive, or inappropriate language. No derogatory comments / sarcasm. No references to cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, sex, gangs, gang-affiliated words or phrases, and or cliques. No language that discriminates another person's ethnicity, religious, political beliefs, sexuality, gender, physical or mental ability, etc. Let's see. No derogatory comments about the school, students, faculty, or staff members. No shoutouts to or about other students or teachers. This rule is in place because of the potential of a quote offending the person it references. We do not have time to check, etc. No student or faculty may be quoted in the yearbook. There are a great many quotes that can be reflective on you. You will find them. I agree. Your quote must be in standard English. No abbreviations, no creative spelling, or questionable or inappropriate content. Interesting. All quotes are subject to review by the yearbook staff and administration. Failure to follow the guidelines will result in the exclusion of your quote. That is all of the guidelines that I received in order to make my quote. So, looking further into this topic, it would seem that there are other guidelines behind the scenes that we're not informed of, that I was not informed of, or the other students as well. Now for the word count, I'm pretty good. There's 1 to 2, maybe 3 if you are counting the attribution, so we're all set on that front. Now, for the needs attribution, I initially in my original quote attributed Jun Seba to saying this quote. Obviously, he did not actually say that. Jun Seba is a Japanese hip-hop artist known as Nujabes. He is dead, unfortunate. He's just a artist that I look up to and enjoy. He doesn't really have many other quotes, though, besides maybe lyrics, but unfortunate. His passing is quite a sad event to me. Now, according to some other rules that I guess weren't kind of really stated on the list of rules, we actually have to attribute it to someone who said it, which I didn't do. It never really specified that. I kind of just figured, you know, I could quote anyone, such as this person who quoted Anonymous or this person who quoted themselves. Apparently, we aren't allowed to do that. We also aren't allowed to quote maybe family members, schoolmates, teachers, or known/anonymous. And this clearly takes down your number of options if you aren't creative like me, in which I will quote a different person. So, no offensive material. I'm kind of categorizing rules 2 through 6 under this category. Now, obviously, the quote itself doesn't contain any of this, and I would make sure I could work with administration to make sure, obviously, I'm controlling the website. I would put all the content on it, and I would make sure by myself the website doesn't contain any of this derogatory material. And faculty as well could work with me to or make sure that this isn't a consent. Obviously, it could be a lot of work if you actually don't trust me, but so no shoutouts. So it does specifically say in the rules no shoutouts to other students, in which my case I'm not. And on my website, I do have a few links to personal social medias, and I could easily remove those. I would have no problem doing that. But apparently, even though it doesn't say in the rules I can't shout out myself, apparently, you guys have a problem with that anyway, and I do quote, nor is the yearbook and senior quotes a tool to market something we know nothing about. I do understand the fair, you know nothing about it, that's why I'm trying to explain exactly what I am about, and all that, the whole purpose of this. However, nor is the yearbook senior quotes a tool to market. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm willing to accommodate. I'm fully willing to accommodate removing my social media. I have no problem with this. Though in the past years, it would seem you have accepted this, and I totally understand the argument for past rules, sure, compared to new rules. Yeah, I understand, but I will get slightly more into that. Must be in standard English, no questionable content. And this first point, I could argue, you guys could argue that the URL isn't in standard English, and I could argue that it is. It's URLs were made in the U.S. when the internet was more so being standardized, and also URLs are just automatically translated. So there's an argument to be made for both sides, but I'd say it's totally fine compared to a prior example. Now, the second part is a little much harder to get around, as it's completely up to the school to decide what is questionable content, quote unquote. You know, I can sit here and I can try and persuade you guys all I want. Obviously, the final rule is still up to you guys, and that's really, really unfortunate, despite how much I, in actuality, met up to these standards that were set forth to me, which I say, including a rule that is basically just an asterisk, we can say whatever we want, it's a bad practice. So that is why I'm more so pleading directly in order to cooperate on this sort of project, in order to ensure that it has no material that you deem irreparable or of that nature. And my final statement on the rules, like that last rule is just so tricky. All quotes are subject to review by the yearbook staff and administration. Failure to follow guidelines will result in the exclusion of your quote. And while it should mean that if your quote doesn't follow guidelines that we set forth, only then will it be denied, only if it doesn't meet the guidelines. But in actuality, because of that one rule that just says, oh, whatever material we deem questionable, they can just reject anyone, for example. And on the surface, my quote, oh yeah, it totally does in fact meet all of the rules, it's rejected. And I completely understand all of the thought behind it, considering it's a website and all that. But it just technically, by technicality, it fulfills all the guidelines. It just does. But you guys can still outright deny it regardless. And I understand it's, rejection. It's inevitable. Now, in defense of the school, I completely understand why the school is hesitant to accept this quote in the first place, and why it was denied in the first place as well. I have given all my simple reasoning and rebuttals to all of the surface level issues that the school could have had, given the guidelines that I was given in the first place, right? But I'm only able to see the requirements the school hands out, and thus I'm only able to put out a quote that I thought initially fulfilled these requirements. Little did I know about all these hidden attachments. Like, the quote needs to be searchable by the school. Like, you can't find like who said it and all that. Then can't do it. Or along with all the requirements on who you can quote, like family members and all that. It was something that just simply was never stated from the get-go. So my quote essentially had no chance from the start due to no fault of my own. Okay, now I would like to say this part of the argument is a recountment of certain events, and what follows is supposed to be sort of just my speculation and not intended to be taken seriously. I also want to say my information just from my perspective and just how I remember the situation unfold. So I don't wish to offend or involve any particular parties or put anyone's word against anyone else. I merely am trying to craft my argument in order to persuade the audience. Right? That being said, onward. Now here is the entire story. Initially, we were told to send someone, I don't totally remember the exact specifics. A long time ago, we were told to send someone our quote. It wasn't very proper, and they said that there isn't really a deadline as of yet. Due to lack of deadline, I didn't even send anything. That is until an official school email arrived November 3rd, giving actual details on how you should structure your quote, all the details, etc. Now, I replied on the 8th with a rough idea of what I wanted. It didn't really follow as well within guidelines. It kind of did. There wasn't any like offensive material, but it was just formatted weird. But I kind of knew it wasn't accepted. So I scratched that and then went with a more clean quote that you see now, which is very simple. Website attribution on the 14th. Send that. Now this was because I thought that the first one would be rejected. I never thought that it would be accepted in the slightest. But then a month later, we got the actual rejection, and once again, I actually just sent the clean version, thinking that they potentially only looked at the rougher version. And actually, 6 hours later, it was rejected again. So I knew for a fact it was definitely rejected, and I ended up getting directed to talk to Miss Luceri from just probably some automated. I wanted to argue my case, and so I did. And having explained it, I was told to then contact administration and discuss with them on the issue. So I sent emails from there. Now that brings us to present day, in which in my A block class I happened to see Miss Grantham and asked if she was available for a meeting at all today. And she was not really, unless it was available like way later. She also noted that Miss Perico may be out of the office. And then on my way out of A block, out of the school, I just went into the office for unrelated matters, and was told that Miss Perico was there, but not available, so I just would figure she'd reply to the email, which did happen. And whilst in the office, another student was also having trouble getting their yearbook quote in, and was trying to contact administration as well. When both of us, at the time, were informed that they likely, neither of them, would be available to talk whatsoever within the period of now and the deadline tomorrow the 16th at 11:30 a.m. Now that would mean that even if we got contact with administration as soon as possibly could, we may not be able to get a meeting in, was what we were told. And now I completely respect and understand the time usage of others, but from my perspective it seemed unfair to set an impossible deadline when I'm not at fault for the timeliness of my quote's rejection, right? Sending it a month later, right? I mean, I do, again, want to respect people's time, and I'm sure we're busy doing other things rather than reviewing a ton of senior quotes. But regardless, my point still somewhat stands here. Now, it was this point in the office that I was given multiple potential other explanation as to why a quote may be rejected. Now, the first one that I heard was that the yearbook was actually up for awards, the JA yearbook, and that quotes that reflect poorly upon the school are rejected to reflect the school better when they're seen by many other people by rewards. Now, I'm not sure mine falls under the category of, like, it definitely doesn't put the school under a bad light necessarily, nor does any of the material on the website, as I explained earlier. Now, the other thing I was told was that essentially past years ruined it for the current one, or that they needed to put in different guidelines for this current year due to other quotes in past years, as well as that the past year's quotes shouldn't matter compared to the rules set for this year, which, yeah, sure, I could understand, but my quote does follow in with all of the guidelines set by this year, so, and also, between these two statements, I can't help but point out sort of a glaringly obvious fallacy in the two logic between the school is put up for awards and won several awards, even including last year's quotes, and also this year we had to change quote requirements in order to suit the award. I'm not sure if I need to quite point out the fallacy in that, but I will. To me, and I have to reiterate, this is all from my perspective, it would somewhat seem that the school more so cares about its own self-image, what they want to put up for this award, than the expression of their own students. Especially when this is honestly, probably most likely, the most creative yearbook submission that you have or ever will receive. And yet you are denying me a chance to do something I was truly passionate about doing. But you know what, that's okay, I guess it's for an award. The one thing that sort of irks me about this conclusion is the statement that's said in the conclusion of almost every admin email. The kids in our classroom are infinitely more significant than the subject matter we teach. Now, while I have found this statement very hypocritical in the past, such as in this very funny email, how is it that prior years were both able to ruin it for us with their quotes so badly that you guys have to change the rules completely, but are still able to win the awards that you guys want to win this year? When I heard this explanation as to why our quotes were rejected, I somewhat lost it, and it drove me to make this entire presentation. It now feels even more hypocritical when the reason for all of the rule changes and for all of these students unable to put the quote that they want and have some innocent fun along the way, for these faculty members to have to deal with me making this, or even me to having to make this in the first place. It's because of an award that the school wants. When we pay for these yearbooks in the first place, you really want more. You want an award. And you have to deny us our right to creativity. When the school supposedly puts its students first. I hate to make a derogatory comment about this school, but I cannot believe that I went to this school for 13 years. I can't even put my quote in the yearbook. But I can't even quote that, because it doesn't follow the school's guidelines. It may somehow offend the school too much. So I guess that quote's out the window. And also, I can't even quote myself. So at this point, it doesn't even matter. I'll just leave it blank. I'd much rather do that if you remembered just a tiny bit less and put some stupid, silly quote that I don't care about. Because this school claimed to put us first.
Ryan Hughes, jambloom.com.